Welcome back to Guinea Something Good Behind the Scenes. Today's episode, I'm going to be doing an audio commentary for the Guinea Something Good animated shorts, all of them from 2012 to 2014. Recently I compiled them all into a video, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about what went into making them. So let's get started. Okay, this is the new opening that I made, and here we go with telekinesthetics. This is the first short that I made. I was going to the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, and I was learning about animation, and I had made one test animation called Joe Finds Money, and I did the voice for that, but that was more of an experiment. This was really the first episode, first official episode of the Guinea Something Good animated series. And for this episode, this is where I put out an audition casting call for the voices and found our excellent voice actors, Edwin Tiong and Sean Chiplock, Joe and George, respectively. And they did a great job. And I think this first short is still many people's favorite. And it could be that most of the shorts I've made since this one have been based on comic strips. So this one was actually written specifically to be a short. And I plan on doing more of those. There's obviously, if you're writing it for animation and not adapting a comic, then you can just write it to flow in a funnier way, in a more just in a way that lends itself to animation more, maybe. With comics, there's a certain beats that you hit, setup, punchline kind of thing, that in animation there's a tendency to just sort of have a bunch of funny stuff happen in a row, because it's just a different format. So when you're watching an animation, you're in a different mindset than when you're reading a comic. So yeah, most of these, actually all of these, are based on comics now. So there's a very setup punchline kind of rhythm to all these animations.
Talking seashells. It's mine, Joe. I saw it first.
Well, I saw it second.
Guys, I know how we can settle this. Which one?
So yeah, with each of these animations, you can see I was experimenting with the look of it. So Guinea Something Good, if you're not aware of this, is also a comic strip, and it started as a comic strip. And so the big challenge for me was figuring out what the animation style would look like. So the first telekinesthetics episode, I very deliberately designed sort of an animated style where it's simplified some of the drawings from the comic strip into a more cleaner, smoother, thinner lines, just sort of a more animated look. And I actually really liked what that looked like, but for some reason, I don't know, maybe just to capture the spirit of the comic more or something, I started trying to animate the actual drawings from the comic, because I actually make the comic strip in Flash, so it's very easy to take the drawings that I already made and then convert them into little Flash puppets to animate in Flash. And so that's what I did with basically all these so far since telekinesthetics have been taking the drawings, except for this one. We're taking the drawings from the comic strip and animating them. This one, I wanted to experiment with the idea of drawing frame by frame. And I wanted to do it in a way that was very fast. So the lines aren't very clean and the drawings aren't very, they're kind of crude, and I didn't really like what that looked like, and it took a very long time to do because frame by frame animation just takes a long time. And here I started experimenting with the idea of just rotating the characters. So up until this point, I had taken the drawings that I made in the comic and created separate objects for the head, the body, the arms, legs, and was trying to animate them more like a puppet. And so for a few shorts here, I experimented with the idea of just rotating the actual drawings from the comic for a couple reasons. One, of course, it's saves time. So that's the kind of ever-present struggle that I have, which is doing these shorts efficiently, but also making them look as best as I can. And because obviously, if you can't do them quickly, then you can't update regularly. And the other reason that I wanted to do it this way was because I kind of struggled myself with what is it about Guinea Something Good that makes it interesting or makes it unique. And so I kind of was thinking that maybe part of its appeal was the fact that it has limited drawings in the comic. So because in the comic strip, it's the same drawings copied and pasted over and over and over again. And there's sort of a funny appeal to that just stilted kind of way of production. And so I thought, oh, maybe if I wanted to translate that feeling into the animation, then you wouldn't animate the separate parts of the body. You would just rotate the drawing, and it would look very cheap. So that's definitely something that all of these I was experimenting with. But my biggest struggle is that I really love animation, and I really love seeing good animation. So ultimately, I had to abandon this approach. But you can see I did this approach for quite a few of them because it was so fast to produce. That for many weeks in a row, I would just make one after the other. And then coming up is when I really switched gears and started experimenting again.
Oh, Jeremy, you've worked here a week and I haven't seen you make a single blunder. I see great things in your future.
Oh, cool.
Oh, no, wait. It says here you turned on your computer. You're fired.
So with this one, I was experimenting with the idea of maybe if I animated the lines around the characters, maybe that would give some visual interest while still keeping that idea of the stilted animation. I don't know if it's that noticeable, but each character, when they're talking, I actually redrew the lines a few times so that it had sort of a wiggly look. Now here's the first time where I started trying to experiment again, and looking at it now, really weird results. I don't know why they came out so weird looking, but this was me trying to experiment with the idea of creating objects that had ready-made animations, and then I would reuse the animations, and it didn't work out the way I wanted. This was a very time-consuming experiment that really didn't pan out, which was I created like almost a 3D object of Joe's head in this short. Except I didn't use a 3D program. I just meticulously made like every frame of Joe's head rotating. My theory at the time was that if I made enough frames, then it wouldn't look like an object. It would look like it was hand-drawn. But after doing it, I realized that's totally wrong. And it's interesting. If something is too consistent, that's when you can tell it's not hand-drawn. So there's something about the fluidity of drawings that's what gives it that kind of magic. And so here, this style is the next experiment that I had, and this I did for a few shorts, and I actually incorporated this style into the comic strip for a while. And it's basically a combination of the original style and that 3D head idea, but I just changed the look of the head so that it looked more like the actual comic strip version. For some reason, when I did the 3D head idea, because I was so focused on making it consistent as a 3D object, it lost its resemblance to Joe. So yeah, this similar. I spent a lot of time on these experiments, and ultimately would abandon all of them. But it was a good learning experience. But yeah, with these, like I made all of Joe's head turns from left to right, up and down. And then this is the experiment that took me the longest, because the other ones I spent a good month making new objects and new puppets. But with this one, I hand drew the entire animation. So this was an experiment. It was also more of a challenge for myself, because I had never made a full short that was completely hand-drawn, animated, frame by frame. And this took 6 months straight to animate this 2.5-minute short. So obviously that's way too long to spend on a short to have any kind of reasonable schedule. But I'm glad I did it. It proved something to myself, which is that I could make something like this. It also taught me a lot in the process, and it's just a good showcase that I can now point to, like, here's what my animation would look like if I did it frame by frame. But yeah, 6 months for a short is obviously way too long. And yeah, so far all of these have been based on comics, even this. So I'm actually working on the next original animated short right now. So I guess that's true. I haven't I've only made the one original as far as not being based on a comic. So I'm going to try to do more of those, because obviously if you write it for animation, then you can take advantage of the medium more than you can if you just base it on a comic and adapt it.
Well, I can say one thing. This has truly been a journey of self-discovery.
You mean realizing you're a complete and utter tool?
Who knew? The time travel pens! They're final!
Okay, and here's another experiment. This was an experiment in the comic strip first, and then into the animation, which was, I had this idea of doing very cute drawings when you're zoomed out, and then very realistic drawings when you're zoomed in. And again, it took me a long time to make all these objects. Probably each time I changed a style like this, it took me a month to make all the puppets and stuff. And it was, like I said, it's a good learning experience, but kind of a waste of time in the end. But the idea with this was that I could have some objects like the head, but then the rest is hand-drawn. So the body, the ears, all that stuff is hand-drawn, animated. All right, I guess that's the end of 2014. So if you've seen any of the more recent animations, then you know that I've basically returned to the telekinesthetic style. And it's kind of funny to go through that whole journey and spend all that time on all those experiments, but really the first style I came up with I think is the best, because it's made to look animated, it looks like the comic, and it is easy to animate. So I'm glad I experimented. It would be nice if all that stuff had a cohesive look. Looking back, it's kind of weird that now the archive of animations all have different looks to them, but going forward there will be a cohesive look. So I guess that's what matters. And yeah, so thanks for listening, and I guess I will see you next time. All right, bye.